Welcome to the Content 10X Podcast, the show where content creators learn how to harness the power of content repurposing. And now, your host, Amy Woods.
Welcome to this week's episode of the Content 10X Podcast. I'm your host, Amy Woods, and this week on the podcast, I want to share with you lots of ideas about repurposing your client testimonials. So testimonials matter a lot. Don't fail to make the most of them because you worked so hard to get them. And it's dawned on me that we regularly repurpose our testimonials here at Content 10X. And there are so many things you can do with them. So I thought it would be great to share that on this week's episode. So it's really important to obtain testimonials from your client. Like the power of social proof, it just shouldn't be underestimated, because a business, you can tell people how great you are, how great your business is, share lots of stories, evidence, even really good case studies. But the most powerful and the most persuasive marketing and sales message actually comes from our own happy customers. So hearing recommendations plays a really big role in our decision making since the dawn of time. It's not an online thing. So I'm sure that even cavemen would have gone to hunt on a particular plain if another caveman said that it had bigger cattle. I don't really know much about cavemen, but my point is recommendations are critical to decision making. They're so much more important than any other form of marketing that businesses can put our way, because it's actually the voices of the people who consume the product or the service or whatever it may be. So hearing the views of others is something that we place really high importance on. It might have been in olden times before we had the internet that you'll be speaking to friends and family and acquaintances, and it might not be people you know. So my mum's friend said this restaurant is great. It's still going to mean more than seeing a banner or a flyer. So social proof, super, super important. But when you think about it, in modern time now with the internet, we have really, really enhanced our ability to see reviews and to make decisions. So it's more important than ever. So let's take TripAdvisor, for example. I know personally, whenever I'm going to book any hotel at all, I can't help but look at TripAdvisor. I don't try and get too drawn in, I'll try and be quite balanced, because I know that people tend to always try and post negative more than positive. But I still pay lots and lots of attention to things like TripAdvisor. If I see too many bad reviews on a place, I'm not going to go there. If I see loads and loads of great reviews, I am. Same with Yelp, for example, like restaurant reviews, things like that. So my point is reviews and testimonials, super, super important. They're so important for building credibility, helping you to gain trust. And we love storytelling as well. So testimonials are often like sharing a little bit of a story, but it's the client sharing the story of how they found an experience with your business. And stories sell. So that's another reason why they can be so, so powerful. So I don't need to convince you anymore that testimonials are important. I'm sure I've put that point across quite clear. So when we get one and we reach out to a client, we ask for a testimonial and we get one back and we have this shining review, hopefully, and it's a really, really good marketing asset. How can we make the most of that? So let me share some ideas for repurposing and promoting your testimonials. There are different types of testimonials in different formats that we can get, like any form of content. So firstly, let's look at text testimonials, so written testimonials. When you email a client and you ask them if they'd mind sending over a testimonial and they email one back, so you have a written testimonial. So what can you do with that? So firstly, what most people tend to do, add it to your website. So that's obviously a very good, very important thing to do, not just to your testimonials page if you have a testimonials page, but make sure that you sprinkle your testimonials in other places as well. So if you have a testimonial for a particular product or a particular service, then put it on that product or service page as well as on testimonial page, or instead of, put it on your homepage. If you have an about page, contact page, there are different pages on your website, and it's okay to put your testimonials in different places. So don't just have one page where you have testimonials. Next is to create social media images. So if you don't have a graphic designer to help you with this, then sites like canva.com, canva.com, can be really great for creating your own. So you can go into somewhere like Canva and you can create different images for the different platforms. It helps you with the dimensions to get them looking perfect. So put that quote with an image of the person so it brings more credibility and you can actually see that it was a real person who was providing that testimonial, their name, their title, and what they said, and get sharing that on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, the places that you are. So make sure that you create really great images and then share them on social. Now, you don't have to create images. You could put them into the body of text in LinkedIn or Facebook, etc. But I think that creating an image can be a way to help you stand out on the platform, as with any kind of social post. Also, if you are on Instagram, don't neglect Insta stories as well. So create a testimonial image to go in your Insta stories. And something that you can do here, which I really recommend, is in the highlights section of Instagram, create a testimonials folder. You could call it client feedback or, great feedback or what people say, something like that. And then every time you share a testimonial from a client or some really good positive feedback, a great statistic, something like that, put those in the highlights folder. Then the story may go after 24 hours, but with highlights, it adds that longevity to the post and it will stay in your highlights folder and stay on the front page of your Instagram profile. Okay, so there's ideas on what you can do with written testimonials. So let's say you have a video testimonial. Again, share on your website. So all the points that I made earlier as well in terms of on different pages of your website as well, not just the testimonial page if you have one, but on the service page, a product page, a homepage, things like that. Share on social media platforms, as I mentioned. You can share on YouTube as well. So that would be great if you have content on YouTube to get maybe even start a playlist on YouTube of your video testimonials from, what our clients have to say about us kind of playlist. That can work really effectively. Now, if your video is a bit too long to share as a post on, say, for example, Instagram, where post videos have to be up to 1 minute, Twitter, you have a little bit longer at just over 2 minutes. But whatever it may be, whichever platform, if the testimonial is a little bit too long or it just is a bit too long and it isn't that engaging. So whilst you can put 10 minutes onto LinkedIn, if you do get quite a long testimonial and you'd like to cut it down, then just do some editing. So edit it down into something shorter and snappier. You can always check with the person who provided the testimonial, just let them know that you're going to take a snippet to share on Instagram that's going to be less than a minute. Make sure they're happy with that. And as I mentioned before as well, with written testimonials and creating graphics, you can put a short clip from the testimonial, if it's a video, into Insta stories and share to your highlights folder as well. So that's something else that you can do, which could be really impactful. Now, if you have a podcast and you've got a video testimonial, you could extract the audio and include the testimonial or part of the testimonial in your show. So one of my favourite podcasts, the Model Health Show by Sean Stevenson, he does this with his podcast reviews. So I think it's a voiceover artist as opposed to the actual person who provided it. I'm not completely sure. I think it is. But they read out the reviews from people who leave reviews on Apple Podcasts in the show. And that's really effective. So that's something that you could do in terms of, you could extract the audio. So it's actually the person providing the testimonial and share a little bit of that within your podcast. Coming back to the written content, you could get a voiceover artist to read out the testimonial on your podcast to turn that written content into audio content as well. So there are things that you can do if you have a podcast and you want to get some social proof and testimonials in the podcast. Of course, you can read it out yourself as well. You don't need a voiceover artist. It's just different ways to be a little bit creative. Now, if you're on LinkedIn, you can add your testimonials as posts, of course, but you can also add them as media to your profile. So this is where in your LinkedIn profile, you can add certain media files like graphics and, links to video. So you would put the video onto YouTube and then add the YouTube link, which would still play the video in your LinkedIn profile. And as I mentioned about highlights on Insta Stories, this adds longevity to that. It's not just a post post that disappears over time, but these testimonials then remain on your profile. So that's something really good about the adding media aspect of your LinkedIn profile. So add loads of social proof, lots and lots of social proof to your LinkedIn profile in that way. That's something great that you can do with your testimonials. And also, don't forget about print content as well. So let's say, for example, you're creating leaflets. So a great example is I'm soon, at the moment of recording, a couple of weeks, I'm going to be going to Podcast Movement. And I have got all these leaflets and they've got lots of testimonials in them. They're the same testimonials we have on our website, but we put them into our leaflet. I also have a big banner for the booth that I'll have in the exhibition area. And I've got testimonials on there. So we've repurposed them into these print formats for leaflets and for my booth. So there's other places like that, other print media that you could get these testimonials onto. And other forms of content too. So let's say you have ebooks or infographics. Are there ways that you could incorporate some of your social proof and your testimonials into that kind of content as well? So I hope you found this really useful. I really want to just get you thinking about making the most out of the testimonials that you have. You work hard to get good feedback from your happy customers. You should be really proud of it, but you shouldn't just pop it on one page of your website and then that's it. Think about how you can really share all of your testimonials and social proof about how great you are in lots of different and creative ways. And remember, before you can do this, you actually have to ask for the testimonial. So don't be shy as well in getting in touch with your customers, your clients, and asking them for testimonials. So thank you so much for listening to this week's podcast episode. I really appreciate it. Whilst on the topic of asking for testimonials, I would actually like to ask if you could leave me a review for this podcast. So if you like the podcast, I'd really appreciate it if you could go ahead and leave a review in your podcast app. That would really make the difference for me, and it would help more people find the show as well. Please also subscribe if you haven't subscribed already, and don't forget to follow me over on the social media platforms at Content 10x on all of the social platforms. Okay, so thanks so much for listening. All that's left to say is I'll catch you in the next episode.